Hey, welcome to Vance Tried It. Today, we're going to be trying a suggestion from my all-time favorite viewer, Miss Michaela. Now, I should probably tell you that she has a little bit of an unfair advantage against all the rest of my viewers in that Michaela happens to be my daughter also. But anyway, she asked me to make a pasta soup. Now, obviously, when you make a pasta soup, you're making an Italian soup. And there are three basic types of Italian soup that you will have probably had or maybe experienced. And the first is a fagioli, or if you're from New York, it might be called a fazool. And that is a stew where the pasta is really the star of the dish. And in order to thicken up the broth, you would mash some or maybe even all of the beans you put in there, and that's going to serve as a thickener. And then you're also going to have probably some vegetables and maybe or maybe not a little bit of meat. And then the second type of Italian soup would be a minestrone. On a minestrone, the star of the show is really the vegetables, but it's also going to have some pasta and some beans, but it's going to be a way thinner broth. It's going to be more like a traditional soup. And the third, maybe you've heard of, is the Italian wedding soup. An Italian wedding soup is a lot like a minestrone, except the star of the show here is meat. The other two may or may not have meat in it, but an Italian wedding soup is always going to have meat, and often it's going to be Italian meatballs, and that's really the star of the show. Yes, it's going to have some pasta and some beans and some veggies, but it's really all about that meat. But that being said, I'm not making any of those. Because look, when you want to have some soup, what's going on? For me, it's a couple different things. One, the weather has turned cold, like it's getting ready to any time now. And you just want something to warm you up from the inside out, and that just means to me some soup. Or maybe you're starting to feel a little bit under the weather, and of course, what do you want? You want some soup. But the problem is, whether it's fagioli, it's a minestrone, whether it's Italian wedding soup, those all take a long time. Because you're going to put them together with loving care, and you're going to let it simmer on the stove for at least an hour, but preferably like 2, 3, 4 hours. But maybe you just don't have that much time to make yourself some soup. You're in a hurry. And so what do? You find a soup that you can put together in like 15 minutes. And that's what we're going to be making today. A Parmesan Pasta Soup. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a 1/4 cup of butter. That's half a stick. We're going to put it in this pan, which is on a medium-low heat setting. We're going to put that on there. And to that, we're going to add 5 cloves of garlic. Or if you're going to use pre-done garlic, like out of the jar, which is what I've done, it's going to be about 5 teaspoons. And so we're going to put the garlic in here. And now here, you're going to have a little bit of a decision to make right now, right here. And that is, are you wanting to just get this to where the butter has that garlicky flavor in there? If that's the case, you really only need to do this for about 30, 45 seconds. Or you can go a little bit longer, maybe a minute or two, and you can start to toast up that garlic. Now, I like it probably somewhere in between. Certainly you want to be careful that you're not burning the garlic. That's not going to give you a good flavor at all. But I like it a little bit where it started to toast up just a little bit. We're just starting to turn color, just starting to darken up. And like I said, that's really probably only going to take about maybe 2 minutes. You always want to make sure you're keeping an eye on it in here. Now, while we're doing that, we're going to get ready with our chicken broth. And this is 32 ounces or 4 cups. And I just buy it at the store, as probably most of you do. But you know, you can make your own chicken broth. And if you ever want to see me try to make some chicken broth here and see what that looks like, why don't you let me know down in the comments. And hey, while you're down there, would you please go ahead and like and subscribe if you're not a subscriber, because the more you interact with me here in this video, the more people get to see it. And I love to have the most people see it as I can. So here we go. We've had our garlic in here. It's starting to turn just a little touch of brown. We're just going to let that go right now. And once it starts to turn, we're just going to put all of this chicken broth right in here. Just like this. There we go. And we're going to turn this up to high. Because what we want to do is we want to bring this to a nice rolling boil. And so hopefully it won't take too long. And we have all of that butter and garlic flavor just kind of dispersing throughout that stock that we put in there, that chicken broth. And it's really going to add this nice, wonderful flavor. And while we're waiting for it to get boiling, we're just going to go ahead and add some salt and some pepper. There we go. And I always like to use fresh ground pepper. I just think it gives it a little bit fresher taste, a more robust pepper taste, which is kind of what I'm looking for, because you know we're all about flavor here. And so we're going to let this get to a boil, and then I'll get back to you once it's boiling, and we'll get on to the next step. Okay, that did not take long at all. We are at a rolling boil right now, and what we're going to do is we are going to take 6 ounces of pasta here, and this is ditalini pasta. If you can see that there, these are just really small, short, hollow pasta, and we're going to put this in here, and we're going to cook this until it is what is called al dente, and that means that it is still a little bit firm but fully cooked. So you're going to lose that raw pasta taste, but it's still going to have some firmness to it when you bite down on it. And that really typically is the way you want most of your pasta, and that's going to take us about 10 minutes. So I'm going to get back to you when this is done cooking, and we'll move on to the next finishing steps of this soup. Okay, so our timer just went off. It's been in there 10 minutes. That should make the noodles just perfect. We're going to turn off the heat, and we're going to finish it up just like this. We're going to take about a tablespoon of Italian seasoning, and that's probably about a tablespoon there. And then we're going to take half a cup of Parmesan cheese grated up. Now, I often tell you, don't use pre-shredded cheese, but Parmesan cheese is a very hard cheese. And so the reason I tell you don't use pre-shredded is because it has a coating on it, and it affects the way it melts. But because Parmesan is such a hard cheese, they don't have to put that coating on there when they grate it or shred it. So you don't have to worry about all that. So we're going to put that in there. We're just going to stir it up. Give it a good stir, just like that. And, guys, just like that, it is done and ready to eat. So I have my bowl here, just going to dish it up and see what it's like. I can tell you this, it smells very good, but let's see what the flavor's like. You can definitely taste the garlic, but it's not overwhelming. And the cheese just fits in there perfectly with the garlic and the chicken broth. And the noodles just kind of balances everything out. Oh. Is this as good as a fagioli or a minestrone or a Italian wedding soup? No, probably not. But it didn't take hours to cook. It took 15 minutes. And this is definitely better than what you're going to get out of a can. And you know exactly what's in here. So I guess the verdict is, I tried it. You should too.